Hello, welcome to Weekly Shonen Recap. We're we're finally back. Both of us are able to actually do this at this point. Though one of us, he's not able to use his video as well, so
Yeah,
we're
I'm not.
just using. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, I'm not going to be using videos this time because if I do, the internet will die immediately.
It just wants us to fail. But this will be an especially dense episode because we're doing all of our usuals plus Burn the Witch because we didn't get around to doing the final chapter together before all these internet issues started happening. So now for every series except for One Piece that hasn't had a chapter in a few weeks, we're getting 2 chapters with this episode here. So we're doing our usual order. So we'll start with Black Clover 265. And this was a short chapter. I think it was 11 pages.
That sounds right. Let me double check it.
I think it was because I was surprised how short it was. But I'll let you check it.
Yeah, I'll check it, but go on it.
Okay. But with this chapter, we see the aftermath of Noelle waking up and seeing the Eye of the Midnight Sun last chapter, which I want to say, I couldn't remember some of their names, but it's at least Veto was the despair, and I couldn't remember his name. I still can't
Meadow and
remember.
Audrey and Fauna.
Is it, who was the other guy? It was Veto.
I do
Patri.
not remember the sleepy dude.
I can't either. I had that same issue. I couldn't remember Veto for some reason, but like I also couldn't remember the copycat guy. But
Yeah, I've never been able to remember his name.
I guess Veto just has one of those cool names, and then Fauna's easy. You hear that enough? But it's like for some odd reason I just can't remember the other guy. But anyway, we see that, and she wakes up like we saw, and everybody's okay. They're like sleeping in what appears to be like healing pools. I don't know if they're like beds or like elf magic
It's
healing.
Based off of what I can see from it, it looks like something similar to like Mimosas plant magic.
That's what I was
Because
thinking. Like
yeah,
some kind of
he's playing in like a bed of like grass surrounded by vines with like little bubbles coming off of it, like her little healing pad thing does.
mm-hmm. So they're all healing up, and she wakes up, and then
It's kind of funny because like Secker, Noel, and Mimosa are the only ones who actually physically wake up. Everybody else went immediately back to sleep.
like everybody wakes up at a specific moment in the chapter, but then the only ones that
Like
stay are Secker and Noel and Mimosa.
everybody's favorite hungry dwarf is sitting there with a giant snot bubble. It's kind of funny.
I love drumming.
Yeah.
But so we find out from them we're in Elysium, which
looks
is,
like every elf forest from everything back to Aragon.
and it's also called Elysium. So there we go. Of course we have that. But it's their
It's
new
a
home.
little. Yeah, it's like the witch's forest. It's a heavily it's one of those high magic zones
mm-hmm.
or strong magic zones, I think is what they actually call it. But it's
I think
one of
yeah.
those secluded on the borders of one of two of the countries. This
The
one
Heart
being
and
like,
Spade, I think.
yeah, it's like the upper portion of the heart near the spade. That's where they're at.
Mm. And we see that, and we find out after Patri tells us that, and we find out that the reason they're there is because there's some guy running things called Dryad, and he told the Eye of the Midnight Sun group to go help out with the battle, but they were too late to get there, so they just took everybody from where they found them and brought them to Elysium to heal them up.
Yeah, to go in a little bit before that though, they did see like 2 elf kids.
I couldn't remember if that was
And
before or after, but it
it's
didn't.
before that.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Noelle sees the two elf kids and she asks who they are because obviously there's no elves anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is an elf village. And Patri tells them this is the descendants of the original royals of your Clover Kingdom. So that Secker has this big flashback moment of back whenever she healed Lady, I think her name's Tetia?
Tisha, or it's Tetia. So I guess
Tetia, I think.
Tetia, however you want to say it.
She was alive, but like she had definitely lost one of the kids, so she just tried to quickly heal her right before she ended up turning into a bird, like almost immediately after. Because she heals her, runs straight over to
help out the king.
Yeah. And then immediately turns into a bird over there, like we've seen already. And so she didn't realize it, but she never got to know whether she saved her or not. But she had definitely saved Lady Tedia, and she ended up giving birth to that half-elf child.
So one of the descendants.
And apparently that just ended up being like the start of this village. So all these kids are probably like half or less elf, probably a lot less.
At this point, it's probably like, I would imagine it's the old 3264 maybe.
Yeah, like there's probably a couple of them that are like a quarter or an eighth.
Well, actually, yeah, with how long the elf lifespans are.
Yeah.
It's like, it's only been 500 years, I think. I can't remember. The anime says this like every single time, and I already forgot because I was thankful to not have to hear that every episode. But I can't remember how long, but I think it was just like a few hundred years, and with how long their lifespans are, it's probably not as extreme as I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was probably somewhere between like 300 and 500. I think you're right. But yeah, they got told by basically what we can gather is probably the Earth Spirit.
Because we haven't seen the Earth Spirit yet, and he's the last of the four. So we figured he's got to be somewhere, and we both figured that it was probably here, since they mentioned the Dryad guy having some. They call him their god Dryad. So,
it's the guardian deity of this area. Which makes sense, because like we've seen how like whenever one of the spirits lives for a long time with the same host, they get immensely powerful.
Yeah, like Forgolion in his arm, or Fauna and her giant riding dragon.
Yeah, I was thinking like the dragon, and then also Undine, because Undine is also insanely strong at the same time, as long as she's in use. But they got told by Dryad to go after them because it had seen what was happening. But before they got there, the explosions already started going off, but every single one of them there attacked the explosion with everything they had left, and that's how all of them survived. Like Ghosh, did I say Ghosh? Yeah, no, Ghosh isn't there. But it's
Finral.
It's
well, Finral, I think, was one of the. There's
no, he's not there. What I was thinking was like it's Magna, Luck, Mimosa, everybody. They just all, and Charmy's giant wolf. They all attacked, and with their attack, were able to reflect the explosion away from them.
I feel bad that I forgot Magna was there. I knew Luck was there, but I forgot Magna was there.
Actually, it's not Magna. It's what's his name?
What? Because there's
Brogolion.
Yeah, Brogolion.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name either.
Magna and Zora are the ones that are still missing.
Yeah, because it was him, it was Luck, it was Charmy, Mimosa, and Noelle and Secker, I think, was the group. So we don't know where Magna and Zora are.
Yeah, we still haven't seen them yet, but and we already knew that. We just got confused for a second.
Yeah.
But basically, by blocking all these explosions, they saved all the Heart citizens that were behind them. So, and Patri basically congratulates them on saving the people and for being strong enough to reflect a blast from a devil. And they all talk about how they're not strong enough because they couldn't
couldn't protect Laura Pachica.
Yeah, well, they couldn't actually do anything. They could barely protect themselves. They couldn't actually repulse any of the devils.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the devils defeated themselves is basically what ended up happening, because he ended up blowing them up with curse magic. So they ended up defeating themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then Noelle fighting Vonica didn't get extremely far. So it's like...
And then Noelle just basically gets angry and then just kind of begs for them to get stronger. And then he's like... he's basically said that after 6 months of training, you couldn't defeat them. What makes you think you could do more in such a short period of time?
Yeah.
And she's basically says, because we have to. And he's like, okay, there is a way to get you stronger using
it's an elf awakening magic.
Yeah, basically. It's like, for anybody who's seen Fairy Tail, it's basically whenever they get that second reserve of magic, that's basically like what it seems like the elves are going to do for them.
Which, all right, cool. Fair enough.
And to be fair, it makes sense because it's like, elves do have a bigger well of magic, but they were considered something along the nobles, and then we saw them fighting the elves, and it's like, they had way more magic than a noble.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Noelle has more than them, but nobody else did. Even then, she's like a one-shot cannon. She's like, I hit you once with everything I got, and then it's gone.
Mm. Like when she beat or hurt Veto with this Water Dragon's Roar?
Yeah.
And it just like, I think it took his arm off and he immediately grew it back.
Yeah, and then he activated his third eye, but that was a cursed seal though. But elves also have, like, seemingly based off of everything we've seen, they have more magic than were initially told they have, because they're born with the amount a noble has.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're way, way more than that, based off of everything we saw. So it's like, this isn't a big leap in logic. This is actually kind of what I was expecting.
Like just some kind of like, elves, okay, here we go.
Yeah, elves have a way to like stretch the power that they have, or basically like maybe we think it makes your power stronger. It might just like make you do more with less magic.
So they don't actually have to do that much training.
Yeah,
it's just
so this might be a precision kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he calls it like the elf historic art, which I'm not sure what the word historic is off the top of my head. I feel like I've heard that word before though.
Let me see that real quick. I can check because I was. Let me see. If the chapter will come up, please. There we go. If the pages will turn. There we go. Elves esoteric art ultimate magic. I've heard the word esoteric before. I think it just means like really old. I think like an ancient. It's been a while since I heard the word, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's just like super old. Like we have had this technique for a while, I think. Kind of thing.
No, it's a specialization.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, it means a specialized knowledge of a certain interest group of small people. Huh. Okay. But yeah, esoteric. Yeah, it makes sense. It's like, it's still like elves are a small group, and then amongst elves, a smaller group knows how to do this art. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense, and it also makes sense that Patri would know how to do it, since we already know he's like on the stronger side of elves.
Yeah. Of course, that's only a pool of probably 5 people, including him.
Yeah.
Because it's like his Eye of the Midnight Sun, him, and Licht.
And possibly whoever Dryad's partnered with.
That's true, too. But then I do wonder, because he's a full elf, whereas Dryad is probably one of the descendants, so he'd probably be a lesser elf.
Yeah, but obviously he thinks he can teach it to humans, so doesn't seem like there's a big compatibility issue. Mm-hmm. It's just, it is a guarded secret of the elves.
Which I do. I always like it when they pull the ancient race has secret thing. I know they do it all the time.
That is why you added ancient races into series.
But it is neat. It's like, oh, the elves had this super secret thing. It's like, that's nice. I always like seeing that. But
then moving on to 266.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of that chapter.
There are things I want to. Yeah, there are things I want to talk about, but it's like they kind of go along with the next chapter too.
Mm.
So we might as well just talk about them together.
Okay. And
but it basically starts with Julius talking to Gaja.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I forgot what his title was. High Priest or something of the Heart Kingdom.
I think.
Or was it,
I can't
they
remember.
were like guardian something. I forget.
Yeah, like he's the guardsman.
Yeah.
Oh man, but, I can't remember either.
They were basically explaining their plan to attack in 3 days, and just making sure that Gaja is going to be going, and basically others of the higher levels of
the Heart Kingdom are on their side. Kind of.
And he basically explains like, yeah, we're with the elves too, which that wasn't made clear beforehand because they were not standing in that little puddle of healing.
Mm-hmm.
That it was literally just the main characters. I assume there were other puddles of side characters healing. But so he's talks about we're at the elves currently trying to build up strength, but for the honor of our kingdom, we're coming back.
Yeah, it's like we won't fail.
He tells them, also that little group that you sent to us are also preparing to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they make it in time will be up to them. And then we get very angry look from him. We get an angry look from the two most obsessive characters that are currently around, which is Gaja about Lolopika, and then Charlotte about Yami, which wasn't expecting, but it was still a cool fucking panel.
It's so funny. It's like she's not even in the scene. It's like they're just talking, or like we only see.
She's been standing behind him the entire time.
Well, I guess this is still taking part in that whole meeting room thing.
Yeah, and she was standing behind Julius while like she's basically acting as his guard. But it's like he's like, I will never forgive them for taking you, Lolopika. She's like, I won't let you die, Yami.
I love Charlotte.
Like, okay, Charlotte. Yeah.
And then let's see what else. Yeah.
Then it cuts back to the house after it had sat down, because Henry's done, and
Nock just goes on a tirade.
Yeah, he goes in there. He's just explaining to him that in 3 days, their handpicked elites are going to be storming the Spade Kingdom, and they're like, "Oh, how are you the vice captain? We've never seen you even once. Why are you here?" And he's like, "Oh, because you've never seen me because I hate the Black Bulls."
That one panel, I twitched a bit, and I'm like, "Oh no!"
This one and the one below it, yeah.
Oh god!
But I actually kind of buy this logic, but I still hate his personality, which is, if I could, being a magic knight lets me operate freely. Of course, I'll take it. And as a vice captain, that lets me have even more freedom, so it was convenient. It's like both these things are technically kind of true. I mean, being a vice captain doesn't give you more freedom because Yami exists, and you best believe Yami's running away from paperwork.
Oh yeah, so somebody's doing that.
And if you're abandoning it, and he's abandoning it, then I guess Finral's doing it. But once again, the true vice captain of the Black Bulls.
You know, I wonder, do they even have, like, all the other ones have paperwork, but we never see the Black Bulls do anything that's like...
We've seen it on a desk a couple of times with that Yami's, like, clearly avoiding.
Huh. I never noticed that.
There's like a desk there's a desk in Yami's office where he's sitting at a different chair, and there's a desk that's just piled high with papers and books and shit.
That's awesome.
Yami's like, I'm afraid of that place. You can see it in his eyes. But yeah, I guarantee you, he just like once a week he's like, Finral, do my work.
And then Finral's just,
He's like, you're supposed to be doing this, and he's like, say it again. He's like, I'll do it.
Say it again. Oh, man. But yeah, we go, Noct explains that. And then he talks about hating the Black Bulls. And he goes into each character. Like, he calls Vanessa a terrible drunk.
He talks about, like, he hates people who can't do anything properly. And he said, and this is known for being a brigade of good-for-nothings who exploit the name.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, even though 6 months ago, you played a role in the giant war that happened, which it wasn't really a war.
It was more just like, I mean, it was a big battle, but like not really a war.
I mean, it was like fighting against the elves, and then suddenly boss appears.
I do love how he shows up. It's like we knew something was up with the stuff with the first Clover King, or not the first Clover King, but our Wizard King, and like licked and all that, and then the devil just shows up, and you're like, oh my god, okay, like that was cool.
Yeah,
I still think about how cool that scene was.
He talks about how it doesn't erase their past failures, though, and I kind of hate this moment because he's like going down the list of how they failed, but none of them are like this anymore. There's like a brazen witch who does nothing but drink. That doesn't actually describe Vanessa anymore.
It definitely used to, but he's going off information.
Yeah, this is like pre-Asta information.
Mm.
And then a spatial mage who was so careless with women that it interrupts his mission. He definitely was.
But they make a whole point of him working on that now.
Yeah, and then after Vito, he works on it. And then after his brother, he worked on it even more.
Mm.
And then a ruined noble and former convict. That doesn't describe Ghosh at all.
I mean, it's like, literally his backstory, but it's like, it's not him.
But yeah, it's like, is he a ruined noble? Kind of not. It's like financially ruined? No. Is he still a noble? Yes.
Yeah.
And former convict? Well, that's hard to pinpoint because literally anybody who looked at his sister got fucking throat punched through a wall.
Well, when we first see him in the backstory, he is like escaping prison.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Yeah, but so is Yami.
True.
Why was Yami in prison? Wait, hold on. Magic Knights can't go to prison. Why was he in prison?
Maybe he just wanted to be there.
Was he trying to break into prison?
I couldn't tell you. That's a good...
But, by the way, what's with that trope in all the backstories of Yami walking through a busted brick wall?
You know?
He literally does it with 90% of the backstories. Including Charlotte's.
I was just thinking that he did it with Charlotte when he got rid of the vines.
Yeah, he did it with Henry. He did it with Ghosh. I think he did it with Zora. Yeah.
I can't even remember how we recruited Zora.
Oh, Zora was beating up corrupt magic knights. And if I remember right, he literally like punches somebody through a wall.
Oh, wasn't that the one where
he can't be doing it?
Yeah, he's at the bar, isn't it? Like he's staking out the bars to beat those dudes up.
Yeah, he's like, you can't just be beating up people while he's out there beating up people. And it's like, why do you constantly contradict yourself?
We love you, Yami.
It's like, I freaking love how that's just a weird trope with Yami. Is like, oh, he's constantly busting brick walls.
And he even does it when they save Asta, too. Like, the whole group when they're in the trial scene. Like, everybody busts through the walls, and they even do it in non-backstory moments.
But yeah, if you were trying to figure out, like, think of a word to describe Ghost, it's like, the fact that he was a financially ruined noble, that's not that uncommon. So that's not really a good thing against him. The fact that he is a sister-obsessed, maybe possible pedophile who's completely antisocial and arrogant, maybe. And even then, he's worked on at least 2 of those things.
I love how we say possible pedophile, and there's still a maybe.
Hey, it's only possible for him. Elf him was a definitely.
Oh, yes. That was a very weird moment.
Yeah, that was. Oh God, what's happening here?
We should have known those elves are weird. But let's see, we got Gauche, and then he talks
And then
about
he's like, and then two evil-looking, openly delinquent peasants, one of
with
which wears a mask, and
oh
he's like,
yeah,
okay, that's kind of a terrible way to describe Magma, and that's an accurate way to describe Zora.
it's like Magna. The whole thing with him being a like delinquent kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
literally don't judge him by his appearance because he's the least delinquent out of all of them.
yeah.
With Ghost possibly being the most, but
We haven't
and then
gotten
Gray tries
confirmation.
to stick up for them for like 2 seconds.
Mm. I just don't. I
Like,
think she says that
can't
same
judge a
thing.
book.
Like, don't judge them by their cover,
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
can't judge them by the way they look. And he's like, if you don't want me to judge you by the way you look, change how you look.
Which that was something. I was like, I kind of get the logic. I hate seeing the characters we like torn down by this guy.
Yeah.
And then he does a whole thing after that where he says the only good people are people that are good from the beginning because they talk about how they
I think he's
changed.
talking about himself there too.
Yeah, which I feel like they're gonna go the whole like I hate myself thing, so I'm an arrogant asshole kind of thing. But it's just at the moment it's not fun to see it.
Yeah, and since it really feels like,
Oh, what'd you say?
but he calls them good for nothings again. That he's like, oh, if you bunch of good for nothings want to save his worthless hide, you can be my guest, but you have 2 days to get strong enough.
Mm.
And then he just disappears,
Oh,
and then he reappears, and that's when we finally get explained. Yes, it's definitely shadow magic. Yes, shadow magic is just a strictly worse version of spatial magic based off of what he's seen. Because
so
he can travel between shadows, but that's a limitation that spatial magic doesn't have. And it also seems like shadow magic isn't made for attacking in any form, even though spatial magic has a specialization for attacking.
But we do get some weird stuff with that because, well, actually, we'll get into that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of weird with the shadow magic too.
Yeah.
With that. But after explaining it, he takes Asta to a ruined noble's house, and it shows a picture, and you can kind of see it's knocked as a child back there. So I guess it's his family home.
Yeah, it's kind of like a manor house that was. He says it belonged to a former noble, that is. And then you can see down in a picture. It's like you can't make out. One kid's face is completely covered. You can see Nock's face.
Well, you can't really see his face, but you can definitely tell it's his hair. I don't think the picture.
No. You can see his face. He's the only one that actually has a face in that picture.
I didn't see.
You can see his dad's mustache. But no. If you zoom in on that picture, he is in that picture.
I mean, I knew he was in the picture. I just figured you could tell from his hair.
They even put like a detail on him.
Mm-hmm. Why is it scrolling so slowly? Oh my gosh!
But then
he does. Okay, I see it now. It's just so small. But yeah, one kid's face is like torn out of the picture. His dad's got
it's not torn out. There's a stick sticking in front of it, I think, actually.
Oh, is that stick? I thought it was like a messed up.
Yeah, it looks like it's a burned stick sticking in front of it. But it's he takes him to this like little alcove, what used to be a library looking room on like the 3rd floor.
By the way, this whole thing is destroyed. Like
yeah, it's completely derelict, and like everything was left inside of it.
Mm. Like the pictures, there's like chandeliers, messed up windows, bookcases. It's just torn to pieces for whatever reason. Which it might be because of what we see next. Noct uses his shadow magic, and I think it's called Dark Garden Invitation.
Yeah, and it hands come out of the shadows and they drag them out, and it's into a spot that's like it clearly isn't actually like below. It's not on the first floor because they're on the second floor, so it drags them somewhere else. In a complete entirety. It's like it might not even be in the house, but the house is obviously like a portal to it.
Mm. Because they went to a spell circle for it. So like the house was built to work between these things.
Yeah, and there's like pillars that are full of like little notches with skeletons stuffed in them.
Mm.
And there's lighting everywhere, and everything's like made out of iron and like blood stained and stuff with candles. And he tells him, for the next 2 days, I'm going to tell you everything I know about devil magic, and you should grow exponentially.
Mm.
He basically tells him, what you're using so far isn't the devil's power, it's the power that's trickling out of the devil.
Yeah.
So we're going to perform the devil binding ritual, which is a forbidden type of magic.
Mm.
It's basically you forcibly put the devil under your command so that you can use all of its power at your basically whenever you want.
You use like a trinket, he says, or like any kind of item.
Typically you use an item that's related to it, or some kind of trinket or something.
Mm. And he takes off his cloak, and you see like little necklaces he's made.
Yeah, and we've already seen he has 4 devils, so we see a little trinket from each devil, and he says it has to have connection to the devil, but which makes the devil have the capability to be summoned in this world.
Mm.
However, you're going to be a different story because your arm and grimoire are completely connected to the devil now.
Yeah. So he doesn't need the trinket.
Yeah, he is the trinket. He doesn't need a trinket.
Mm.
So he activates the summon circle, and he pulls the devil out of Asta, and the devil looks sick.
He looks so cool.
There's just this absolutely amazing picture of the devil just floating with the coolest tail ever.
It's like a giant.
I absolutely love this.
I think it's a giant spade, like a just giant hook tail kind of thing. It looks really cool.
It looks like a whip with like a spade end. Oh my god, it's so freaking cool. And at first it's taller than him, but then it comes down to like his height.
And starts standing.
His arm is gone. Like the arm he gave to the devil, it's gone now. And instead there's like this little vaporous trail where it was. And he's like, the devil's like, would you look at that? Who would have thought you'd release me voluntarily? And then
we get a face shot of him as the last panel, and he looks cool.
Yeah, he looks like a demented, evil version of Austin. It's freaking amazing.
It's a cool chapter.
And Noct gets like the shadow over his eyes, and he says, "You're going to fight the devil and win."
Mm. And that's where the chapter ends at that point.
Yeah. And we'll go over the newest chapter in the actual this week recap later on. But yeah, I love the fact that we're actually doing some training that's going to make sense, because it's like 2 days real training can't happen. So the only ones who are doing that are the ones who aren't going to really be that involved with it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, Ghosh is strong, but it's like the only one who actually needs to get stronger there is Gray needs to figure out what she does, and they need to help her do it, and then they'll all get stronger based off of having Gray help them out.
Mm-hmm. And then there's ones like the elf group getting their secret elf technique, and then Asta's obviously going to get super strong. I mean, he can't use a magic technique like the elf thing.
Asta has to physically fight a devil, which is going to be it's way more interesting than like just watching him like work out for a couple of days.
Oh yeah.
So and he's about to have a knockdown drag out with the freaking devil, and it's going to be cool.
His body is already mostly muscle at this point.
Yeah.
He's a walking...
It's like Yami is the only thing that is above him at this point, and it's like, you can't become Yami in 2 days.
Which, honest, it might just be due to the fact that Yami's like 30-something.
Yeah.
Like, Asta's only like, I think, still 6... I think he's 16 at least. Because he started at 15, and I feel like it's been at least a years since
They
then.
said it was 6 months from that, and so yeah, he's 17 because it was like he was 15 when the thing started.
Yeah.
16 after the initial time skip to after the first chapter.
Oh.
So yeah. Yeah, there was an immediate time skip after he got the grimoire. Because he did that like 6 months of training, and there's another 6 months of training.
Well,
but
we gotta train our worries away there.
Exactly, push-ups for days.
Oh my gosh.
What's next?
Chainsaw Man.
Oh well, we should probably give our little bit of thoughts. Like, we're going to actually. It finally feels like it's not going to continue like this little bit of a downward turn it's been on for a little bit with Black Clover. It actually feels like it's about to save itself.
We're getting the cool stuff with this.
Yeah, like with this chapter, it kind of flatlined out and it's not going down anymore.
Mm.
And it's like, without giving any context to what's happening in the next chapter, it is better.
Yeah, it's going up instead of down again. And
then, oh my god, Chainsaw Man.
That'll be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, right. Chainsaw Man 86.
Oh boy. Let's start with Chainsaw Man chapter 86. This one. Okay. Oh boy.
Starting directly after the Family Burger bitch slap.
So he eats the burger.
Oh, that's before he eats the burger. No. Yeah, she's crying on the ground after she dropped the burger on him twice. And then the owner of the restaurant or the manager or whatever.
Oh, like, yeah, because they think it's like some kind of prank show because like, how can she be that clumsy?
Yeah, how could she fuck up in a life or death situation twice?
Which honestly, if I had that thing standing there, like, or sitting there waiting for me to give it food, I would do a lot worse than she did.
Yeah, so he turns towards the corner and he starts yelling at it, and he's like, "Oh, you're watching from up there thinking this is funny, right?" And then his head comes off, and then she screams, and then she basically pieces a burger together off of the 2 burgers off the floor and hands it to him.
And then we see him eat it, and it's only like a piece of bread and maybe like a vegetable, like a piece of lettuce or tomato.
Out like, oh, this is terrible.
And I hate the fact that like he still like she pieced it together off the floor and he still ate it because it's still better than what they used to have. Like that made me sad for a second.
Yeah, he's not Chainsaw Man's basically like, oh, that wasn't good, but then he remembers like another one of Denji's wishes, because for anybody who doesn't realize this at this point, because I've seen a bunch of reviewers, this isn't Denji anymore. Like, Denji's probably somewhere inside him, but this is Puccina, or what we thought Puccina was, who Puccina. It's literally the Chainsaw Man, and he's trying to go around holding up his end of the bargain he had with Denji.
Mm-hmm. I will say I kept calling him Denji just for convenience because it kept slipping out every time, so I just stuck with it. I know it's Chainsaw Man, but I just kept calling him just for convenience.
Just to put it like out there for people who are legitimately confused, it's not Denji.
This is Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, this is Chainsaw Man, the little dog with the chainsaw on its head. That is who this is now.
I want a plush of that so bad.
I know. I can't wait for the anime for the little plush.
I know. Man,
but he remembers another one of Denji's goals, which was he just wanted to go on a date with a girl. So he kidnaps Himiko immediately with this
panel's great because she's crying on the floor. He looks at her, remembers that, and the next panel is her crying again, and it shows her being held by his like neck collar thing up in the air. And he's just walking along. I love that panel. It's so funny.
Yeah, they go to this little $100 ice cream shop, and he buys her, she's crying, and he buys her ice cream, and she's crying while happy eating it, and then he cuts back to the freaking ice cream stand.
And he tore it to pieces?
Yeah, he cut it to pieces, and you can see the body of the dude who was in it, just like there. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't taste like anything. And then he sees like this arcade across the street with a Dance Dance Revolution machine outside of it. So he starts walking to that. and this devil,
another devil hunter
basically
comes up.
Yeah, the bounty hunter version devil hunters, the ones that hunt very small devils. He's like, oh, this is a pretty strong looking devil. Despite me accepting the dispatch, he's like, don't be afraid, miss. It's safe now that I'm here. And
the next panel is his
dead,
head on the ground.
Like, yeah, and her going, no. And then he drags her with a gun scarf and puts her in front of the Dance Dance Revolution machine, which is called Dance Dance Mushroom, by the way.
I missed that. That's awesome.
It's great. But he puts it in front of her in front of it. Then he says Vance, and she's like, huh? And he's like, Vance, and then she's like, dance, and then he just starts nodding, and then she's like, we don't have any money to put in the machine, so I can't dance. So he cuts an ATM in half, and then throws like hundreds of million of yen in front of her, and she's says, but I've never done it before, and he just stares at her, and she's like, but, and then he stares again, and she just starts crying, and then starts. It cuts to a scene of her basically the screen of the Dance Dance Revolution machine, and she's pulling these sick tricks trying to dance for it.
Oh, I love this chapter so much.
Yeah, she's just sitting there crying, and she's going step 1 2 1 2, and then it cuts away, and there's just her with the corpse constantly dancing, trying because she's afraid.
Mm.
But he left. It cuts to the roof of like the game center. He's just sitting up there because he saw Makina, who's up there, and she's like, "Oh, so we've been noticed. Come out, everyone." And then it's just a flashback of every important person ever.
Except for like two people who want to. So we have
the Stone Devil guy who got decapitated. We get the people she was on the train with, the Snake Girl.
The Katana Man.
That one guy who died in the Infinity Devil thing.
Did we figure out who that was? Because I asked you if you had any idea, because I can remember who that guy was, and you said you didn't know. Did you figure it out?
Yeah, I don't know his name still. I just remember where he died. And then we get freaking Riza. And they're all talking about how they're
and we have Quan Chi.
Yeah, well, that's on the very last part, but like, yeah. They're all like, okay, we're going to take out Devil Man. We're going to take out Chainsaw Man so that we can go on a date with her. And they're all kind of arguing with each other, talking about who Makima really loves. And then Reese is like, well, I think she'd be bored on a date with a man, right, Miss Makima? So all of their personalities have been changed so that they're obsessed with Makina, including Quan Chi, which we saw how much she hated her.
Oh, my God.
And now she's obsessed with her, too. And then Makina's like, okay, I like the idea. Whoever takes down Chainsaw Man will get a date with me.
Which nobody's getting a date. Nobody is getting a date. Because we go
into then we go to 87, which is the curb stomping of everybody. In case anybody thought anyone here stood a chance.
So basically, how it starts is they all attack him.
Well, no. It's before that. She's like, okay, none of these people here are humans, devils, or fiends anymore. What they are, the name doesn't exist anymore because you erased it by eating it. But the fact that these things can exist, that somehow didn't get wiped out. So it's like there's nothing to call them because this is the sole exception to this kind of rule of like if you eat something, it's wiped out.
And then we see that she talks about that and then mentions that these are the demons or the devils.
Yeah, these are the weapon devils in the first place. Horsemen. Yeah.
So these are some of the big boys, at least the horsemen.
She's like, these are the four. You fought the weapon devils and the four horsemen who are all here at the moment, and you vanished in front of us. It's like after that, you were changed into a near-death form, which is what we now know what Uchina was. Which
explains why we saw him bleeding. So that Denji must have found Pochita like immediately, or probably pretty quickly after he got down there, because he was bleeding on the ground.
We'll explain that in the newest chapter because we get even more information about what Puccina's little Puccina form is.
Mm.
But it's but she says, now that we're reunited, let's bring an end to this lifelong battle. And she tells them all to commence their operation. So they all transform into their devil forms and surround him on all sides. And he's just standing there.
He does not care.
Yeah, he's standing there, and they're all going to hit him all at the same time. And he just kind of sighs, and then they're all dead.
The whole thing explodes.
Yeah, where he's standing, that chunk of the building is gone. All of them are in pieces, and except for like 2 of them who are missing, and then you see like 8 buildings get like these giant holes blasted in the side of them, and then you see that it's literally Chainsaw Man jumping with 2 of them attached to his feet, and they land in another building.
Oh, and then he like tears their heads off.
Yeah, he rips their heads off and like cuts their bodies into little pieces, and then Katana Man's like right behind him, and he crouches down and he's like going to cut him, and then suddenly Chainsaw Man, you hear a ka-chink, and then Chainsaw Man standing behind him, and then it's literally like an Omewamu Cinderu moment because the dude falls into pieces. Chainsaw Man's just kind of like catching the blood in his mouth as it like splashes back towards him.
Oh,
and then Makima's like, okay, this looks unwinnable. All cheery.
So that went about as well as we expected that to.
Oh my god.
This thing is on another level.
Yeah, based off of what we've been told, this is what had brought about his downfall. It's like, okay, there had to be more to that because he's wiping the floor with them.
Maybe they were stronger at a point, and maybe putting them in these new forms, because they call them the Horsemen, but then we see their old forms. Like Quan Chi still has her archer form, and Riza still has her bomb girl form. So maybe the actual Horseman forms are stronger than what we got here. Maybe?
Well, it was the Weapon Devils and the 4 Horsemen. So it's like we don't know which of these are the 4 Horsemen. We assume like the Snake Devil and stuff are.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that aren't directly weapons are like loosely weapons, I guess, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bomb Girl, that might be a 4 Horsemen. But we really don't know. We just know that like this is not even a fight.
This is just him having probably a good stretch, I would say.
Yeah, this is Chainsaw Man's best day ever.
He gets to go on a date and drink the blood from a decapitated head.
Who wouldn't love that?
Oh my god, that chapter was awesome.
We've got a long way from freaking Genji yanking on Puccina's butt to cut her freaking Spider Devil in half.
I keep going back, seeing all these chapters and thinking about the one where he fought the Muscle Devil in like chapter 2.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I remember when that was freaky. And now we got Chainsaw Man blowing up buildings like he's a Dragon Ball Z character, and it is the coolest thing. Oh man, I love this.
But we can gush about this for freaking hours, and we have before. Go look at any other video. We've gushed about Chainsaw Man.
But we have a lot of chapters to cover, so...
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
But yeah, that's how that ends. Makima says that, and then the chapter's over, which when we do our regular recording, we'll go into the next chapter, which is...
believe a hype train goes on for infinity. Just like... There's never been a time whenever Chainsaw Man has been bad, but it just continues to get good.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. So, we'll move on to Dr. Stone with that. And
significantly, hype meter goes down, but it was good. It's just not hype.
It had a cool Crom moment, but we'll get to that. Chapter 167.
Yeah, and we get... it goes right back to where Zeno was sitting in his chair and they had the sword to his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to think about how they got there. He's like, I didn't hear a single gunshot from the guards, which means that you got most of the way here without combat. And he's like, was it from the sky? No. And then he sees dirt on their hands. And he's like, oh, you tunneled. Truly elegant.
And we see the whole tunnel and it's like...
Yeah, it just flashes back. And it's like you could see Chrome. He literally like pops out with like coal in his mouth.
Was that Taiju? I thought that was Taiju.
Oh wait, that wasn't. It might not be coal. I forgot. He popped out. It's Crom that pops out, and it's like it looks like coal in his mouth, but it might be the cow that he popped up under. He might have gotten poop in his mouth. But yeah, they pop up in like the middle of a cow thing, cow pen inside the castle.
They're inside the castle, but they missed their mark a bit.
Yeah, they thought, we must have missed it really bad, and they're like, no, this must be inside the castle. And the cow's just like, it literally gets a speech box. It's like, moo, you trying to milk me?
Which I love that, like, Crom did, like, the math just out like that and still got that close. So that was a cool little thing there with that one.
And we find out that the majority of their feed is the yellow dead corn, so they have enough to be just constantly feeding animals with it too.
Yeah, they have a ton. Like, they use it to feed the animals. They have enough to just...
They use it to make grain and stuff. They're obviously using corn for a lot of things, which is, it's a staple grain. Of course they are.
Mm-hmm.
But then Suika just goes back into her little melon form and starts rolling towards some guards they see near the main entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what is that, a watermelon? And apparently Geen finds a way to just puke everywhere. He's like, oh, my stomach started to do a little dance, and he starts puking, and then it suddenly turns into playing cards.
Yeah. That was a fun little moment. I was like, this is a weird moment. And then it turns into cards, and it's like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and he was just doing this because he's standing, like, near the guard door.
Mm-hmm.
So that distracts him long enough for, like, Kohaku to come up, and, what's his name? The pipe spear dude.
I thought it was Tsukasa.
No, the pipe spear dude. No, the pipe spear dude knocks out another one. But Geen's like, if I was forced to choose, I would much rather be subdued by you, Kohaku, because she's choking the dude out with her legs.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see, he's like, yes. Which can't say I'm against that, but then she opens the door and there's like 8 or 9 guys just inside the door. And then you see a hand.
A different part. Yeah, this is the part I was thinking of.
You see a hand the size of her head pop out. It's freaking tough. Then he just opens the door the rest of the way, and that's where we went from the scene from the last chapter where he's just knocked out the 8 guards, flipping over him.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up with a sword next to his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then Crump just starts looking around, and he's like, he starts freaking out because he's like, oh, so this is what an observatory from the 21st century would have looked like.
Which, that was a cool moment. Just like...
Yeah, Zeno kind of was like, oh, so you must have been, and then it cuts off from there, because their alarm starts to sound.
Mm-hmm.
And they tie up Zeno, and they throw him in the hole, and they just start freaking walking the way out.
Oh, yeah. And then...
we're like, oh, we need a way to make this close behind us. So it's like, oh, don't worry, I made this bomb to go kaboom to all solve all our problems. There's a bomb with the death face on it. They cross it. It's like, we'll light it, and this will send Zeno's sled that they have hooked to the rail on the top, go all the way forward and collapse the tunnel behind them. And they're like, Kawaku's like, oh, should have known you'd have a plan, Chrome. Who's going to make sure the bomb goes off? Obviously, Dr. Zeno can't do it. And then Chrome starts sweating. He's like, oh, this is the part I didn't think about. So everybody else just starts, like, booking it down the tunnel. Meanwhile, the bomb goes off and rockets him and Zeno forward. And they're pulling G-forces, so it's like, Crom is, like, about to vomit. And then, still not thinking about how fast the bomb was going to make them go. The roof of the thing collapses, knocking off the grid, which makes the other side collapse too. So they caved in on both sides.
So they're stuck there.
Yeah, so they're yeah, and the soldiers from Zeto's side are like, okay, so we'll look for an exit from the above ground to try to cut them off whenever they come out. And he's the big engineer guy kind of hits that dude, flicks that dude in the face and knocks him over, and he's like, cool your head. This isn't going to turn into a battle, because while you're searching for them, people inside the tunnel are going to croak from lack of oxygen.
Yeah, so Crom and Zeno would die by
Yeah.
the time they
He's like,
managed to get to him.
This has to be a digging contest if we want our science people out.
Mm.
So Crom kind of figures that out too from the inside, so he just rips off a part of the railing and kind of jury rigs a little pickaxe together.
Yeah.
And starts digging his way forward.
And then
Dr. Zeno is just super impressed by the fact that they were he's a descendant of the survivors, and he was still able to make a tunnel and a cable car escape plan in the stone world. With only he's like, you're clearly smart, so think about it. Which way should you be digging, and which side should you aim for? Which side's going to have won by the time we get out of here?
Yeah, and then he talks
like,
about
Stanley will never give up, and your ship's gone. Yeah.
And then he talks about like his whole idea of like being on top and all of that different things, and then we see a really nice art piece of Crom holding the makeshift pickaxe, and it's like, I don't care. It's like,
oh well, that didn't happen yet. It's
was
like
that
at
not
first
yet?
he's like, why?
I'm mixing so many things. I'm sorry.
He asked him, he's like, oh yeah, why should you get to rule? He's like, he starts talking about the problems of the 21st century, where everybody's like politics and morals and like random politics, morals, ethics are led mostly by people who don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's preventing people from actually progressing. So he's always felt like there were like strings on his back holding him back. He's like, I'm sure you know the type of brutes, the ones that would rather throw a punch than see the value of science. And he's like, yeah, I might know a few. And he starts thinking of like Magna and Oahu and a bunch of other people.
That was fun.
And he says basically, oh, if you go back, I can make you commander, and you can know everything that you want to know about science. And he's like, it's different strokes, so that won't make them fools. But I don't think I have the right to judge people on what they love. And that's the art piece you're talking about with Crom.
I love that piece of art, though. Boichi flexes like every other chapter now, and it's just, it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not as crazy as those sky pieces from a few chapters ago, but like, it was cool. But yeah,
this is whenever Taiju's drill meets Crom's pickaxe, and it kind of hits it and bends it. Because they managed to get out that side before the other side has even kind of dug halfway through it. And they're like, oh yeah, so we've won the battle of the science users. In the next chapter, which is 168, Corn City 1 million, which there are problems. We'll get to it. Chrome basically calls Senku, and he's like, we've captured the enemy's king at this point. And this is at the point where Stanley's already caught him in, what's his name? Ryusuke?
Yes. And
basically, without Zeno, nobody can understand what they're saying over the transmission, so they're kind of just saying whatever they want now.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about somebody knowing they're Japanese. So
so they just start saying anything they want. And one dude, the dude who was the bodyguard for I forget her name at the moment.
Luna.
Luna?
Yes.
Yeah.
Took me a second.
Yeah, he starts running up to it, and then that big cave woman-like lady is like, oh, hello, Max.
By the way, does she have a name?
I don't know. She's literally just like Zeno's strong-arm lieutenant girl. I don't know her name.
Because I was talking about that when I did the video a few days ago, and I can't remember if she ever got a name.
Even the engineer dude doesn't have a name until this chapter.
Okay. So she might just not have a name yet.
And then he's running up to go find Luna, and she's worried about Senku. And he runs up, and he sees Luna. He's like, "Oh, it's wonderful to see you, Miss Luna." He's like, "What the heck's going on here?" Because she's tied up too. So while he's untying her, she explains everything, and he starts crying. And then he's like, just like the other dude, he cries for a second. Then he's like, "Okay, so we'll set you up with your new man. What do you need?" And then she's like, "Aw, thank you, Max."
I love those two.
Yeah, they're like, "We're still devoted."
Mm. I guess I really liked Luna and all of them. Like, they're just a fun addition to the cast too.
The funny part though is like while they're talking about like, okay, we'll rescue your new man. What do you need? Francois kind of wiggles into the room,
Yeah.
and then she's like, okay, Francois can help me with first aid, but we also need Master Kazaki so that he could reassemble the aircraft.
Mm.
And he kind of just rolls into the room too. The dude starts trying to untie his ropes, and he's like, "Don't bother with it. Just tell me one of those amazing machines from the 21st century Zeno's made."
Mm-hmm.
And Francois basically describes what a tractor is, and he flexes and rips his clothes off and the ropes and everything, and then picks up a giant sack of stuff that they think they might need and just dives into the frickin' water naked. I love that little scene because he's like, this pack's like 7 times his size, and he's just like, yee!
Just going for a swim. I love the old man.
And but he jumps off, and Francois jumps off, and then Luna and Max are like, "Oh no, 2 enemies fell in the river. Guess we're gonna have to get them." And then they start walking up. Kanzaki still has the bag, but now he's wearing a shirt that says "new" on it.
Oh, that's great.
And then it cuts back to them using the radio around Zeno, and they're basically explaining what we already said. Is like, without Zeno, they don't have to bother encrypting anything because nobody's going to really know what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So they just kind of flat out tell them exactly where they're standing.
It's like
and then while they're telling where they're at, Senku walks over the top, and he's like, yeah, as long as his hands are bound, there's no need to hog tie him. He'd never do anything illogical. Because he's a world-class scientist. And then Boichi flexing again.
Oh, that was a nice panel.
2 panels
that was a nice
beautiful.
He always draws Senku so well. I mean, it's his main character. But, like, man, a lot of those really good Senku panels are really good. And then that was a really good Zeno panel, too. That was just a good piece.
Yeah. But then it just goes to them talking by the river. I actually don't remember this part too well, so let me try to pull it up.
Let me see if I can get it on my end, too.
He starts talking. I know that one of the things that brings up is like, so you use Stanley wouldn't have failed to make a killing shot. You must have used some kind of scientific measure to foil the bullet and defy your death.
Oh, yeah.
Which you'd think he would know, like ballistic jelly or something else. Like, he'd come up with an idea on the way that Senku could survive that. Like, what could slow a bullet? Let's see. He could use any form of armor. He could use ballistic jelly. And the dude was shooting through metal, so it's like he doesn't have to slow it too much. So it doesn't have to be anything that's, like, pre-made. It can be made then.
Well,
but he's they're basically reminiscing like what was going on. He's like 1,000 years ago. It was a few thousand years since I started sending messages to NASA, and we don't have time to stroll down memory lane, but because we got to get moving to sunset. He's like, what do you mean later? Where will you go? There's no base for you to return to. My people have definitely defeated yours, taken over the ship, and you've lost. Ryusuke's like, oh, that's true. Since we can't go back, we're just going to go forward. And Crom's like, wait, what does that mean? And then that's where Luna shows up, and she's just screaming, and she's like, Senku, you're safe! And then she's like, I mean, of course you're safe. A smooth operator like me knew a little dogfight couldn't hear you. I freaking love her little animated face. It's great.
This chapter had some good moments.
He's like, oh, they're exactly where the cell phone said they were. And then Francois just runs forward and just builds like a little. Francois runs forward, sets the table with tea, puts out food, and then goes over and starts cleaning the freaking mobile lab, and they're like, instant hospitality. What the hell? And then you see, what's his name? The driver dude and Max are kind of bond together because they know they both lost. And she's like, but Luna starts like screaming about things that Senku might say. She's like, I long to see you once more. Don't flee, but you flee to my side. Job well done, Luna. And she's like, oh, he'll never say that. I'm supposed to be smooth. Why am I dreaming up stuff like that? And he basically says that with additional stuff.
That was sweet. I like that.
He says that. He basically goes like, it's like, sorry for all the confusion, which is how that thing starts too. It's like he laughs and says sorry for the confusion. It's like, she thought, oh, you managed to sneak away just to see me, and he's like, oh, you managed to sneak away and get Kensaki and Francois. Job well done. And she's like, I was half right. And a little self-satisfied, and it's adorable.
No.
Yeah, I actually love her.
Yeah, she's really fun.
Still Team Kohaku, but I still love her.
I feel like the Kohaku thing is an end goal one. We'll get it one day.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest shipper guy.
I am in this at the moment, but...
But
I'm not always big shipper, but occasionally.
Oh, Genji and Power. Oh, God.
Power. Power. That we all know about Jubi.
Jubi.
If you weren't cheering for Juvia the entire time, who are you?
Was there anybody else at that point?
No, but still.
Well, I mean, she was good, so it's like, you don't really need anybody else, but it's just kind of funny.
It's like, either she gets rejected or she gets what she wants, and you're like, I hope all the world's happiness for her.
I still remember one of those ones where she wanted him to sit on her as a chair.
Yeah.
That was like one of her early moments, and I'm like, this is going to turn out great.
Yeah. But, what's his name? Yukio.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I suppose we have everyone that's necessary for us to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Taiju's like, what do you mean, our team move on? And basically, they're talking about they have to get the mobile lab onto Zeno's boat because they're just going to steal Zeno's boat. Because all the guards are currently on the Perseus.
Yeah.
So they get on to his, which is a metal cruiser, which is already a little bit better for certain aspects. Like, it's definitely more armored than the Perseus, but the Perseus was obviously made for more people. Because this thing's like an eighth of the size.
But still, it's a good boat.
Yeah. But yeah, they end up taking the boat, and it's I think it's even a little faster than the Perseus because it's actually a speedboat instead of just a steamboat. But they start talking about like so what's the goal? Are we going to attack Stanley's group by the water? And it's like but if we could, but it'll mean our death. So Seku's like, so the goal will be diplomacy. We're going to make the New World's first and last leadership summit between the Japanese and the U.S. So out of every American, who do you think would be the most reasonable for us to talk to? And so Crom comes up with Brody, which is the name of the engineer. He's like, he doesn't understand. I don't understand English, but even I could tell that he prioritized saving lives above other things.
Yeah.
And Geen was even said he doesn't seem to get angry. He'll brush things off with a laugh, but at the same time, even though despite knowing that Geen was lying, like, did I say Geen? Yeah.
Geen.
Yeah.
Geen.
I was trying to remember who I was talking about. Anyway. But he's like, he starts talking about, that's that would be Brody, and he's so they start. He says that he's a lot like Yukio, so that he doesn't like unnecessary sacrifice. So they call and they specifically ask for Brody, and he's like, "Oh, if you're calling to ask about a hostage exchange, but sorry to say, numbers are on our side." Mm-hmm. So he's like, Senku's like, "Okay, that's true. So to make up the difference, then how about I'll give you information you can be excited about?" And Brody's just kind of like curious looking, and then Senku just screams into it. He's exactly what the revival fluid is, which is the Nidal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Zeno's face just like drops to the floor, and so does Brody's. He's like, then Senku's like, "Do you get it? Using all the corn you have, you can make as much as you need." He's like, "Everybody from my ship would know the details, and I'm sure they'd be thrilled to help you out. Aim for 1 million people, build up a massive city, and our goals will stay aligned." Mm-hmm. He's like, "Okay, you know that Stanley isn't going to give up. He's just going to keep tracking to the very ends of the earth." Mm-hmm. And then Senku's like, "I guess we're just going to have to keep giving him the slip, and I'm going to be a very busy man because of it. So I'm going to move. I have to move on with this plan."
I feel like that was somebody breaking the fourth wall a bit there.
Yeah, I feel like that's hey, the editor's telling us we have to move on quicker, so we're moving quicker.
We're literally on a faster boat.
Yeah. So Brody's like, "Oh, so you're going to try to forge an alliance, wage a war, and build a new nation all at the same time. I guess you're crazy."
Oh, and, I love that.
Basically, they say that Corn City's founded at that point, and that's where the chapter ends. Like, yeah. Okay. If this is where that arc had ended, like with this one chapter, and then it's like, okay, we're already moving on to South America, mm-hmm. I would have been a little mad. I'm glad that even before the chapters came out this week, they on Twitter they said the arc wasn't over yet. Mm-hmm. Yet now it's over, but it wasn't over yet. So we got the epilogue, which was necessary to make this work a little better, because I don't want another Toriko. Okay, we had an arc in Section 8, we had an arc in Section 7, we had a half arc in Section 6. Time to go breeze through everything again.
It's like, oh, who cares about
I feel like that's what weakened Toriko. That's what weakens a lot of series, is like, okay, like, like whenever they're like, oh, this is the 7 people we must defeat, and to collect a coin from each person or something.
Oh yeah, and they like blitz through 5 of them.
Yeah, there's like arcs of like the first 2, which are the weakest ones, and then it skips through all the middle ones.
And then like
they fight them in batches or something, and you're like, oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times. That's not even like amusing anymore. It just makes me more and more mad every time. At this point.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad the editor is kind of trying to make sure that's not happening. He's like, okay, you introduced a number of cities, so you have to just to get started on this roadmap for this rocket. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, if each one of these is an arc, you kind of have to make them short-ish arcs. Mm-hmm. Like 20 chapters isn't an overwhelmingly short arc. Like, it feels like a lot has happened.
It really does, but I think a lot of that is like compounded by the fact we're waiting like a week every time. It's like, yeah. I've had problem. Oh, go ahead.
But it's like not every arc needs to be Dressrosa.
I was immediately thinking of that. I'm like, oh no.
Dressrosa should have been like 3 arcs.
Instead of just one giant arc.
They should have done what they did with Water 7, and it's like, okay, these are 3 separate arcs inside the arc.
You know, that's a good thing, because
7 arc, the Eddie's Lobby, epilogue, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why did they not do that? Because I was thinking that because pretty much Water 7 and Ennie's Lobby are pretty much the same arc, except they have
and then the After Ennie's Lobby arc, which is another arc.
It's like, why did he make... Well, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. We end up with the same thing anyway. It's
yeah,
like,
but it just feels like, oh man, we've been doing this for forever. And Water 7, although if you put all of the Water 7 saga together, it's nearly as long as Dressrosa. It didn't feel as long as Dressrosa.
Yeah, I could
actually. Dressrosa felt like it was taking forever.
I think that because it's like with Water 7, you start like you focus on the town a bit, you get some stuff from Frankie, and then Enies Lobby, you go on the attack, so it's more of like
it feels like separate things are happening because like what is the climax of the first one? Nico Robin being taken away on the train, the fight with Usopp, and Luffy losing to
Rob Lucci.
No, Bluno.
Oh, I forgot he lost to Bluno. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, because he comes back and like stomps him with gear. Was it gear second?
Yeah, he learned gear second from Bluno kicking his ass the first time.
And he comes back and beats him up again. That was awesome. I forgot he lost the first time.
Yeah, he gets punched into a building, remember? And he gets stuck between it.
Oh,
and Zoro gets stuck in a chimney.
Yeah, I remember now. It's like, you can tell when one arc ends and one begins, kind of, and each one focuses on separate parts, whereas Dressrosa is just like one continuous.
It really wasn't, though, because it's like the part with the green bit, the part where, for the everything that happened on green bit, that could have been an arc.
Well, I just mean it keeps going. Like, you know, I mean, you could see.
Well, there was like constant thread going through, like, all of Water 7, too. It was constantly Robin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh man, Robin left. Oh man, there's Robin. Oh man, Robin's trying to assassinate Iceberg. Oh man.
Robin got kidnapped.
It's like, oh no, she's on a train. We gotta save her. Oh fuck, we failed on the train. We gotta save her from the enemy's lobby now.
Oh man, we gotta burn the flag.
Yeah, there was a constant stream of stuff that was going on. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, there were some obvious like separations, like the Frankie house, which is just like the green bit stuff, which is just like the Coliseum too.
Yeah,
like
I'm not saying he couldn't cut it. I'm just saying he made it like a continuous thing instead of like cutting it where he could have if he wanted to. That's all I'm saying. And
he probably should have.
I feel like it would have been more digestible. Because
if you would have told me like this is the end of this arc, we're starting on the next arc, and it's like this is just the Dressrosa saga.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been a lot more amicable with that.
Oh man, it was Dressrosa. It was a weird time in the story there. Ugh.
But moving on, what's that, Dr. Stone? My hero?
Yeah, so my hero, 285. And this is one where we don't get the title of the chapter until the end. So that was cool.
Yeah, I actually like those ones.
Mm-hmm. I always like it when series do that. Because you always know it's going to be a punchy one if it waits.
Yeah. It's like, the title means something.
Mm-hmm.
But, the way this starts off is basically where the doctor had explained, like, 2 or 3 more times of this intense stress, and you probably won't be able to use your arm.
Mm-hmm. And we just see, like...
You just see this massive punch.
Mm-hmm. Like it's the same punch from the last chapter.
Yeah, his arm snaps everywhere across it.
Oh,
and they talk about that was 3 flyby hits, and then he rips with the other arm forward like Spider-Man for a Detroit smash through the gut again with the broken arm. And then he flips it over and does the Wyoming smash, and then he slams his leg across his head for a St. Louis smash.
And then
they talk about he is just unloading so fast that the dude can't heal.
Mm-hmm. Like Shigaraki, even with his insane healing ability, which we see more of later on, like it's to a crazy degree. Can't keep up with the damage he's taking.
Yeah. He's like, other than the fact my body is imperfect, this shouldn't be happening to this degree. He's like, so One For All is getting in the way of my dreams.
Mm.
And then Deku, like with this like almost demonic looking face already, he's like screaming and blood is flying out of his mouth, and he says that's what this power's for.
I love that panel.
And then
such
he
a cool
pulls
panel.
himself in again, and it says Texas smash, and it looks like a nuclear bomb, which Texas pride.
Yeah, buddy. Oh man, that was cool.
Oh man, it was freaking cool. But then you see, he's
Oh
like,
man.
both arms are like gone, basically. Like they are all completely just like every bone in them broken, and he's still just hitting.
Just keeps going. It's awful, really.
Yeah.
Like
And then
his.
you see like the crumpled body of Shigaraki, and he's just like, I gotta find one of my quirks that can do something about him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he is screwing up his entire body.
I have to wonder though, because like we've talked about this before with the arms and legs thing.
Yeah.
It's like to be able to beat Shigaraki, he has to be able to use his body.
Well, he figured out he could brace it with the black whip, but basically after what happened with both Gran Torino and Eraserhead, he just gave up on defending himself.
Well, what? I was just saying, like, from a later on perspective, it's like, okay, we're going to have another fight where Shigaraki's 100, most likely, and Deku probably has more powers and stuff like that. And it's like, he needs his full body to beat him. And it's like, if he destroys his arms, he won't be able to use them. So what kind of dial back are they going to do to where he can still use his arms at least somewhat effectively?
I don't want them to make, like, oh, well, you still aren't going to lose it at the moment.
Yeah, like how crazy do you have to be?
Like,
do you just have to chop them off yourself?
Yeah. I mean, a small little knife cut made Ida has a dead zone in his hand where he doesn't feel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You mean to tell me him smashing his arms to goddamn pieces, he's going to get out of it with just a cast for like 2 months or 3 months?
I mean, to be honest, his arms should be jelly.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have bones left in those arms.
But even some of the heroes, they're like, it's this fight's amazing, and Bakugo's just looking up, and he's the only one who's figuring it out. He's like, no, he's about to lose if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah, because he's giving it his all, but he's losing power because he keeps busting his body.
They go into details on what is exactly happening. Even it's like because he's using his legs and air force to negate getting blown back by his own punches. Yeah. And then he's controlling all his quirks by using float to keep them up there and using black whip to keep pulling himself after he negates the blowback. Mm-hmm. He's like, he's using every single thing that he has just to keep him up there. And it's like, since the first hit didn't take him out,
he's doing more than he expected to. So it's like, it's already like looking bad for him.
Yeah. But
at that point, and then we see, I think it's where Bakugo starts making, like, he has an idea. And his idea is he asks Todoroki if, like, he's done with the first aid. And Todoroki says, yeah, he's good. So he tells Endeavor to start saving his power for one giant super burning attack he can do.
Yeah.
So Bakugo goes, they start heading up there at that point, and then Bakugo's getting flashbacks. Sorry about that. But yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about, they were talking about the strain the quirks are doing in the endurance match. Mm-hmm. He's like, basically, since he doesn't have regeneration and his opponent does, he's going to beat himself into dust.
Yeah, before Shigaraki is taken out.
Yeah, they tell Endeavor to charge up for that for a max power fire attack.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they're just going to keep cooling down Endeavor while they go up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and Lockrock starts worrying about them. He's like,
that's what his name was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, he's like, they're just kids. He's like, but what am I saying? I admitted that Deku is one hell of a hero already.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Todoroki just tells him to take care of Endeavor and the others, and then just he grabs Endeavor and starts coating him in ice, and Bakugo basically throws them both on his back and just starts blasting forward.
Mm-hmm. And then we get some flashback stuff with Bakugo about his talk with All Might.
And about regretting what he's done to like Deku and the bullying just because he didn't understand.
Mm-hmm. And then we see like he looked down on Deku and saw like problems with One for All and all that. But he said even if it is a cursed power, and then it shows like All Might saving people, Deku.
Yeah, and them all being happy about it. Deku standing up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shows that panel where he's like, I'm the Deku who does his best, and then it cuts over to Deku now.
And he looks like it's awful.
Yeah, he is basically a pile of blood.
Like I had
his
never.
His arms are completely broken. His head is like turned at an awkward angle. His eyes are completely full of strain, and his face is just streaming blood.
Like I honestly, as far as I can remember at the moment, have never seen an like manga panel that shows like stress that well. Like he looks messed up. It is crazy.
But it goes from the blast back, and he starts throwing the black whip. Mm-hmm. But then they throw Endeavor in there, and he grabs Todoroki. So Deku kind of pulls back his hit and stops.
Mm-hmm.
And Endeavor just blasts with his top-level prominence burn again.
Which turned Shigaraki into a moving skeleton.
Then you see this hand come out of the darkness, mm-hmm. and it's like, Tomura, give me your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Endeavor's just falling away. He's got like these pierce marks all throughout his chest. He's like, how are you not dead yet? And like the skeleton forms like this sharp form over the top of it and starts lashing out these like, they look like poles.
Yeah.
And he's just yelling, little brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a kind of beautiful moment where Bakugo literally does for Deku what Deku did for him in the very beginning against Slime Monster. Mm-hmm. He throws himself in front of it.
And he takes the stabs. He gets stabbed like 3 separate times through the chest.
Oh, it's 4 times. He gets 4 times.
Oh, is it 4? I only remember 3.
He gets 1 through the gut, 1 through the shoulder, 1 through the side, and 1 through the leg.
Dang. Oh.
After punching Deku out of the way, he just launches himself in there and headbutts him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where that chapter ends.
And it's called Katsuki Bakugo Rising.
Yeah.
That's where they put the title, which is really cool.
And then at the beginning of the next one, it's like Deku, who's like barely awake from like all the brain trauma.
Yeah.
And Bakugo just puking up blood with all the stab wounds, and he just tells him, stop trying to win this on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the corpse-looking thing just starts shaking its head and pulls its arm back, and it's like, cut it out. And they both, Deku and Shigaraki, start falling, and along with Bakugo, who ends up getting caught by, what's his name?
Is it Todoroki?
Yeah, Todoroki.
Yeah. And then was that
Shigaraki kind of like shakes his head, and his hair starts regrowing, and he's like, the battle today, so much blood was spilled for no good reason. That last part being the most pointless of all.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of drives Deku up a wall again. And he comes out with a demon form, literally.
Yeah, we get, I don't know if
he gets like this black box-looking face with like glowing eyes and black coming all off of him everywhere.
It looks like the Shonen Jump. I was going to say, it looks like the Shonen Jump form, or I guess not that, but the Hero Academy form of Guts's crazy wolf dog thing. Form. Yeah.
But yeah, it straight up does. He literally looks like he's got like this fox form that comes out, and he reaches out and he grabs the steel cables. He punches one to smithereens, and he bites one and rips it off
through his teeth.
And he tells him,
like, oh my!
And he tells him that, and he yells, take it back before he slams into him again.
Mm.
And it's like,
and then we see
after he hits him, there's a crack that forms. Like, Shigaraki's only got one eye, and he's kind of a corpse besides that. And a crack forms right in the middle of his face, and it cracks open. And you can see All for One in it.
Yeah, we see one panel with the crack, and then the crack opens. In the next panel, we see All for One's smiling face inside his head. It was crazy. I love that panel. But
yeah, and then it cuts over to them reporting on Gigantomachina, who's got his eyes covered, but he's tracking the scent of it. And he's like, I can smell Master's scent. Wait, I can smell both Master's scent.
So he's talking about All for One and Shigaraki there. Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
And then it cuts over to like Ochiko's little group, and it's like, okay, we have to save the people because there's not really that many heroes able to fight on it. So they're sitting there and they're trying to save every life possible.
Yeah, and like they can't save everybody, but they're trying to do as much as they can. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, it cuts back to Todoroki, who's screaming because Deku's like tried to headbutt Shigaraki last, and the dude grabbed his face with the hand that's missing the fingers with the gun part on it. So Shigaraki's holding Deku. He's like, I caught you. One for all is mine now.
And then we see it like, we go to this weird mindscape at that point.
Yeah.
Where Shigaraki is there being like...
Yeah, we're back in the one that's Deku keeps going to. And last time he only had eyes. Now he has eyes, 2 hands, and his chest.
Yeah,
so it's showing his progression through it. But it's like right across from him is Tomura, who's barely missing anything.
He's got like a messed up right arm. But that turns into All for One, who is like talking to him.
Yeah, trying to convince him to give him over the body because he's like, you almost died. Clearly you need me to lend you the strength. And he's like, shut up, master. I'm running the show. This is my dream now. And then Deku just falls over because he doesn't have legs.
Yeah, he can't walk. Or at least at the moment.
Yeah, he doesn't even have a mouth or anything. But yeah, he just falls forward and he starts trying to crawl over there. He's like, you hear somebody say, you can't move in this world yet, so let us handle this. And then it's Nana standing there.
Which I love that panel, Nana. She looks so good. Oh,
yeah.
I love that part.
Such a cool hero.
I'm glad we're seeing more over there. But that's how that one ends. So we're getting All for One versus the One for All users battle.
In a world fight, kind of awesome.
Yeah. And so that is the end of the Hero Academy chapters.
Yeah, and it's progressively getting better. It's like, I know we kind of talk about Chainsaw Man constantly being the best, which it really is. But, like, that doesn't mean that, like, this is still probably one of the best arcs that My Hero's ever had.
It's so good. But it's just, we get stuck on, not stuck on, but it's like, some of these series.
Like Chainsaw Man is doing some things that it's so completely unpredictable, but everything about it is just hitting every right note. Meanwhile, we know what is about to happen most of the time in My Hero. There's very minimal surprises, but they're all like, there's not very many surprises happening, but they all have large impacts.
Yeah.
And it's still like top notch every time.
But, so we're not really knocking these. It's just there's different aspects to each one.
What all do we have left now? It's One Piece and Burn the Witch. We'll probably do Burn the Witch during the chapter review tonight.
Okay, we'll do that. There's one more One Piece chapter is all we got left then. And so we'll save the Burn the Witch chapter for our other one, just to get us back on track. So One Piece 991. It picks up after Drake said that he's a one-man army, asking Luffy for help. And Zoro and Jinbei and Sanji all are like, absolutely not. Zoro especially is just like, absolutely no. And Luffy...
Yeah, it's literally Frankie, Jinbei, and...
oh, I thought I saw Sanji
Zoro
in there.
No, Sanji didn't say anything.
Oh, okay,
But first,
okay.
before we even get to that, it's like it does the whole on the cover page. Pound finally got to hug his daughters, and he's just bawling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
That was nice. I love these little mini stories and these things.
Yeah,
Oh.
I love how even the ones you at first we thought like the Kami story wasn't a big deal, and then it turned out to be a big deal. And then
Mm-hmm.
the Jinbei story wasn't a big deal, and then it turns out to be a big deal. So you can't really ignore any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the Buggy one. That was the reintroduction of Alvida and why she's on his crew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't ignore him, but it's like he's like it's right after he's introduced himself as the Army of One, and everybody's like, "That's Drake or the Toby Ropo."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and then he's confused like a bunch of the people on his side who didn't know that he's turned traitor on him.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? Page 1 is like, "Hey Drake, why would you take out one of the numbers?" And then
Oh,
it
yeah.
goes back to it does a flashback sequence of basically Kofi fanboying over Luffy and Drake just having to sit there and listen to it
Oh,
on like
yeah.
his probably one day off out of the year.
He's like, if Luffy likes you, then you're good. But if you're against him, then and then it just cuts to the present again.
No,
And,
if he's an enemy, he's completely out of reach. But
oh,
if
okay,
he's a friend,
okay.
he'll be very close to you.
Mm.
It's he's like, "Isn't that how everyone is?"
You know, when you say it like that, it's true. It's like,
And then
huh.
Luffy's just like, he kind of gets what's kind of going on. He's like, "I know you, and you want to beat Kaido too, huh?" And he's like, "I can't tell you why, but our goals are aligned." So
Mm.
Zoro attacked him, and he's like, "This is bullshit, Luffy. I respect you as the captain, but you're an idiot."
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll let him join." And
He's
they're all
like,
just
"This
like,
dude
"Oh
was
my god."
under." Yeah, he's like, he was just working for Kaido under his wing. He's like, "I've been flushed out of the position, and you think we're going to shelter you?" Then freaking Frankie gets mad. And he's like, "I don't trust turncoats." And uh,
Jinbei's
Jinbei's
like,
like,
even among the pirates, we have a code of honor.
and
He's
then
like, "Oh
on
my
top,
god."
after all of this just got said, Luffy's like, "Sure, he can be on our side." And all of them just turn around. He's like, "No, he can't. Shut up, you moron." But I freaking love it though.
Mm.
He's like, yeah. He starts saying, so X-Drake's like, "I should have figured this would happen." Uh, but page 1 and what is her name?
Wait, the girl with the mask?
Yes,
Oh my
Ulti.
gosh.
I remember
Yeah,
now.
Ulti, yes. And then it's
Yeah,
Pepe.
they kind of forgot. Yeah, they figure out. Straw Hat must be in charge, and then she's like, and then she's basically huffs, and she's like, "It's him again," because she's still mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Okay, the samurai jump forward, and they're like, keep them away from the Straw Hats," and then they turn into their dinosaur forms and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And then Sanji's like, "It's the dinosaur from the fire capital." And who's the cutie?
Oh yeah.
We
I
knew this
love
would happen.
Sanji. Which, to be fair, she is cute, but she's crazy.
But
So it's like,
so my favorite part is when Page One's like, "You'll never get to, another chance to see Kaido Straw Hat," and then you hear special attack Green Star Skull Blast Grass,
oh
and he
yeah.
blasts him into freaking hell. Ulti's like, "Eek, Pepe, who did that?" Nobby's just standing there, and
I
you hear all
love
this stuff
that
coming.
panel so
Her
much.
face is, I love how her face isn't moving. She's
Yeah.
just standing there. You hear, "I'm Nobby. My favorite kind of pest control is getting good at lizards. I hope you're ready for this." And she's like, "How?" And then she's like, "Why are you hiding behind me?"
I love that so
He
much.
slaps over the head, and he's like, "You know what I'll do to you?" He's like, "I'll spray you with repticide." She's like, "It's that woman. She did it." So Ulti immediately fell for it. He's like, "Wait, I didn't say that." Crap battle starting, and she starts running away. She's like, "Do your worst." He's like, "Hey, your actions don't match your words." She's like, "You're one to talk," because he's running faster than her. Oh my god! So those two run off. and freaking ulti and page 1 follow. It was the greatest freaking joke that Usopp's made in forever.
I crack up every time I see that panel of Nami just stone-faced.
Not talking.
It's the funniest thing in the world.
The funny part is, like, you think, like, Sanji's gonna get mad, but he's like, take care of Nami!
Oh my god, I love these guys so much.
Yeah, and so Luffy just starts trying to run forward, and then he's like, hey, Sanji, cover your ears, and then Apu appears because he's got the future sight. So it doesn't work at all, but he's like, fighting in he's like, oh, so you picked up on that trick, huh? But fighting in silence will be harder than you think. So he starts yelling to all the ancient giants, which are Jaki, Goki, and Juki. He's like, you're making a pathetic sight at the moment. The 10 of you used to lay waste to countless towns together, and you get clobbered while you're drunk at a party. That's not funny.
Yeah.
And he just yells, hey, Hacha, have you sobered up yet? Which was the first one we saw that got knocked out. And Hacha just wakes up and picks one up and throws it.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, ha-cha-cha-cha.
I love One Piece little noises. It's like Blackbeard's.
Yeah, and they're so the samurai comment that like they're using Apu basically as an animal trainer. And then Luffy's like, I'll go and get that guy. He's like, Sanji tells him, don't worry about them. There's too many of them. And then Frankie's just like, oh man, I don't think I have enough cola for this many.
Oh yeah.
But then Hacha sees Frankie's Shogun, and his eyes light up, and he gets this little heart above his head, and then Jinbei's like, listen to me, Frankie, run straight out of here. If that big thing fights in here much longer, the samurai won't last. And he's Hacha's like, ha-cha-cha-cha! Chasing after him. Like, basically frolicking after him, and he's like, you think the General Frankie's some kind of toy? I'm gonna make you regret making you ever think that.
Oh my gosh.
And then, basically, Zoro and X-Drake are still fighting together, or against each other. He's like, you do realize that your victory would serve my purposes. How does that suit you? And Zoro's like, I don't trust that because you're hiding where you stand. And then Apu shows up, and they're both like, man, I freaking hate this guy. He's the freaking worst. So they both wink at him at the same time, and they're like, so at the moment, our goals are aligned then. So literally, Zoro doesn't give a shit if you're less annoying than the other dude.
Man, the comedy in this chapter is insane. I love it.
Yeah. It was great comedy. But then they get rained down on with bullets suddenly out of nowhere, and then it's Queen who's saying, don't think you can waltz out of here, traitor, while he's holding a minigun. Basically, you hear like one samurai screaming, like he's already been shot, but then he just falls to the ground after getting shot, and he's just going, it hurts. And then Drake is like, do you really think something like that would even kill me? And he's like, unless the bullets, and it cuts away to the roof. Where,
yeah.
Jack just had his tusks cut off, and he gets punched to the ground, and then freaking Kaido stands in front of him, and he's like, I handpicked Jack as one of my leading performers. Who will not stand back and watch as my most valued of men get killed. And then Jack's like, I'm sorry, I failed. And he's like, no, this does not make you weak. They're just too powerful. And then it cuts over to freaking both the coolest characters.
Like
not Cat Viper and
Dogtooth.
Not Cat Viper and Dogtooth. I hate that mistranslation. Inuyasha and Nekomamushi. They're standing there in their cool forms, which they're ginormous. They're as big as Jack, it looks like.
He's huge. Both of them are.
But yeah, they're like, the Sulong power has caused so many grievous casualties. But you did well to keep their, at least them in check even this well.
And then we see the other people they fought, and like all the like smaller ones are down.
Yeah, Jack kind of passes out at this point too, and But as this talk is going on, like, Kinemon just slowly, casually strides in front of all of them, including Nekomamushi and Urashi.
Oh,
And he starts slowly pulling his sword out. And he's like, "We are grateful to all the Mink warriors." Kaido like arches his head. He's like, "Now run, tire, and perish. I'm eager to see if you can even evade this." And he does the Boro breath.
Oh yeah.
And then
Kinemon just jumps
he's
up.
like, "It never even occurred to me to run," and he jumps and he just Foxfire Flame Rend, because everybody forgets, oh, he specializes in cutting fire.
Oh my god,
When he
that
cuts
was a
the
cool
Boro
panel.
in fucking half, it misses all of them. It destroys both sides of the mountain, and it cuts freaking Kaido down the middle of his mouth.
Oh man. God, that was cool.
And the rest of they're all at the same time. They're like, "Run! Don't make us laugh. We're not running. We're not hiding. After this, we're just going to die as Lord Odin samurai after we've taken your head." That is.
And then it shows like face shots of all of his people, and it was the coolest. Oh man, that was so cool.
So good.
This chapter rocked, dude. Man.
Comedy was on point. That awesome cut of the fire. Oh man.
Kaido respecting his pirate crew. What a concept.
I know who expected that. I did not expect that at all. He's apparently a half-assedly decent father at times, and apparently a decent captain too.
It's like even Big Mom was like, "Oh, you lose, get the heck out of here." But Kaido himself is like, "Oh, they're just too strong. Don't worry, my boy. You're okay. Go eat your treats."
Don't worry, baby. You go to bed. Daddy's got this.
Which, at the moment, he does not seem like he's got it, but here we are.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I'm excited for this week's chapters, and then we're gonna do Friday. Yeah, and then after we do the newest chapters, we're gonna try to get back to doing these weekly.
Yeah, we've had some technical issues, so hopefully we'll get those ironed out soon and be back on a good schedule.
All right, this seems like a good place to sign out. How about you?
Sounds good to me.
All right, subscribe to the like button, like the subscribe button. Good day.
Bye.